Are up over 20%, and it's costing me more and more every time. I go to the grocery store. What can be done to lower inflation and get the economy back on track?
Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Expansion Act. Right?
Yeah.
This is not hard. Inflation is a function of overspending. And when Democrats were in control of Congress, they spent and spent and spent. And all over our country and all over North Carolina, people's lives are being upended. People are finding they're having a hard time buying food. Their credit cards are reaching the peak, right? They're hot and hot. Because of the inflation tax, thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What we need is pretty simple. We need the same guy who built the best economy any of us can remember since Reagan, right? Isn't that right? Think about what the Biden-Harris administration has done and how bad it is. It was 40 years that inflation had been kept well under control. 40 years. And that has been undone, and everybody knows it, and it doesn't matter how much lying media, fake media tell you that the American economy is in great shape. The people of America, the people of North Carolina know their lives are being worsened by the day by prices they cannot afford. Isn't that right?
Mr. Bishop,
Here we go.
how is it dealing with Democrats in Congress?
I'm glad I don't have to answer that.
Here's the best example I can give off the top of my head. In the Judiciary Committee this week, we had mothers before us whose daughters, in one case, think about a 30-year-old, in two cases, like a 12 and 14-year-old, daughters were raped, beaten, killed, stuffed in a drain pipe, tossed in a bayou by illegals. You know, as I said in that hearing, when I can remember, if you go back a couple of years, I remember the name, who remembers the name Kate Steinle, right? But what Kate Steinle represented was sort of a canary in the coal mine, right? Kate Steinle was walking on a pier in San Francisco when she was shot by an illegal who had been detained, incarcerated in the United States, and then released. And there was even some contention that he shot her accidentally, whatever it was, as sort of a freak event. Well, that was then, ladies and gentlemen. Now what we're seeing across America are the names you know, Laken Riley, right? And these young ladies, Nungery, and on. And we're seeing it's growing in a way we can't imagine. They're ridiculing what the president said about the reports coming out of Springfield, Ohio. But what we're seeing is, if you import the third world, you have the third world. And of course, it's hard to believe after a point in time that this is something that is not intended, that cannot be accidental past a point in time. But as these stories were being told in the Judiciary Committee, and I saw multiple members of the committee who were with tears rolling down their faces as they listened to these horrific stories of people who had lost their loved ones to this incipient and increasing chaos. At a break, one of the mother's friends brought me her cell phone and showed me a picture on it of Jerry Nadler sitting at the dais in the ranking member's chair with his eyes closed, asleep. Which tells you, ladies and gentlemen, everything you need to know. We cannot allow this to continue, and it falls to us. It falls to us to see to it that we get it right.
Kash, how quickly can Trump and all get rid of the deep state?
I think he could do it on day one. Because, look, the deep state is no longer a right-wing conspiracy. We proved it. I proved it when I ran the Russiagate investigation for the House of Representatives. I mean, listen, here's the thing. That truth is still a lie to half of America. Just think about this. It took me 2 years to figure out the following. Could you believe in the United States of America in the 21st century, a political party would go overseas and use illegally campaign finance dollars to hire a foreign intelligence asset to write up fake information and then grab the FBI and funnel that information to a secret federal court and lie to a federal judge to illegally surveil their opponent's campaign? That's Russiagate, but we can't let them forget it. And the same FBI and DOJ that ran that operation, what did they just say? They came back and said it's Russia, 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 and Merrick Garland just announced that he wants the DOJ to return to the norms. We don't want that norm. That norm is the deep state. And the way you get rid of the deep state is you have to have a commander-in-chief who's gonna go out there and take a wrecking ball to the leadership. I'm never going to tell you to defund the FBI. We need cops chasing down criminals across this country. What we need to do is wipe out the leadership structure and take out headquarters components. So the best way I can put this to, it's personnel and it's legislation and it's funding and it's a team lift. That is why not just the presidency is so important, but the United States House is equally as important because he needs partners to go out there and do it. And my recommendation, I don't know if he's going to take it or not, but you take the Hoover building, the FBI headquarters building, and you shut it down, and the next day you reopen it as a museum of the deep state.
Here's the deal. Price controls have never worked in any economy, at any time, in any place, in the history of the world. They never work. They lead to famine, they lead to lack of supply, and even when you put these artificial controls in some instances, they can actually lead to price increases. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it is the power of economics, and there is not any set of experts in any far-off capital that have ever been able to control prices. That is why it's a failed policy. Specifically to what she wants to do, the only way it could functionally work is that the Federal Trade Commission would be observing the price of crops and the price of transportation of food, etc., and prices in wholesalers and prices in grocery stores. And what they would do, I'm envisioning, is they would observe these prices and they would come out with a memo. And the memo would read something like, hey, we've observed the price of corn, and we believe that your transportation cost of corn is a little too high, and we want you to look at that. What that does, it creates a chilling effect at the companies, because the companies do not want the Federal Trade Commission in their offices. So they'll look at the memo that's been put out publicly, and they will scramble to try to find ways to fall under the cap. What is the impact of that? The impact is your farmers are going to get squeezed at the beginning of the supply chain. Not the corporate farms, frankly, that have been bought in part by the Chinese. It's going to be your mom and pop farmers in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania, in New York, in California, in Florida. They are the ones that are going to be squeezed. Where's the other impact going to be felt? When the Democrats love talking about food deserts. Well, in urban areas where you don't have a lot of high-priced items because people are poor or lower middle class or middle class, those stores are the first to close because the companies can't afford to keep them running because the squeeze has been put on by Kamala Harris. It is a disastrous policy. I wish David Muir asked her about this yesterday. It would be interesting to see if she could explain it in any sense or detail. Now, why does she keep promoting it? She keeps promoting it because it is her fault that the American people are suffering from inflation.
Yeah.
That's why she keeps pushing it. She has to have some answer so she can demonstrate that she cares about your plight. But
And so she can blame it on someone else.
That's exactly right.
Blames it on the Dow Corporation, the same way they blamed the border disaster on the failure to take up some bill that would never have solved the problem had it been attempted. Because they're the ones who made the disaster.
That's exactly right. I want to make this clear and then we're going to move to, I think we got 3 questions left and we're going to wrap this thing. In 2021, the American Rescue Plan came to the House of Representatives. I was on the Budget Committee. Shalonda Young, who is the OMB director for this White House, came to the Budget Committee to explain their American Rescue Plan. I read it, and I told Shalonda Young in question, you're gonna cause inflation with this plan. Shalonda Young said, no, Representative, that's not gonna happen. Larry Summers, the economic advisor to Bill Clinton, said at the time that the American Rescue Plan, if it became law, was going to cause massive inflation. So you had Democrats, you had independents, and you had Republicans all saying the same thing. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris pushed it anyway. The video of her with her mask on, 2021, in the Senate chambers as the tie-breaking vote in the United States Senate is why we have massive inflation in the United States. It is her fault.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I'm not even going to blame Biden for that one because she was the tie-breaking vote, and I don't really think Joe Biden knows enough about economic policy anyway.
He didn't know where it is.
Must be a good one. Congressman, you and your colleagues are all up this year, up for re-election. We are. Do you think the Republicans will keep the House majority? I'm going to be very blunt, and this is why North Carolina is so critical of this. You guys got to make sure you do your job. You do your job, and trust me, we're going to do our job. The House majority is dependent on Donald Trump becoming the next president of the United States. If Donald Trump wins, the Republicans keep the House. Period. So everybody's got their phones, some of y'all are recording, that's cool. In your cell phones, you have 10 people that you know that can be a little squirrely when it comes to voting. Your job in this hall tonight is to make sure that 10 people in your contact list get out to vote and that they vote for Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance. Can you do that?
I would have had a very easy path to stay in Congress. I had a safe seat. I'm running for Attorney General not because it's easy, but because it is hard. It's going to be tough. You're getting ready to see the air war launch, by the way, Tuesday. And my opponent's going to have ads up several days before mine are coming, but he isn't going to go, he's not going to be going down the stretch by himself. You guys have helped me. We've gotten in position to fight this out. It is a fight, and every single one of us is in the same position I just described. Every single one of us have good friends from the church that Joe and I attended in Charlotte for about 27 years, till it went woke. These friends have left and gone to another church too, but these guys are in fantastic physical health. They're 77 years old, okay? And we were having brunch with them the other day, and Larry told me that he'd gone to get training from the local GOP. He's going to knock doors. He's been a salesman all his life. He was in his working life. He's fantastic with people. That's exactly what he ought to be doing. Now, a lot of people will be intimidated by that or just irritated, they're fed up. The worst of all is our friends who say, I'm going to go into that voting booth and I'm going to vote for Trump and I'm going to turn around and walk out. That's a recipe for disaster, ladies and gentlemen. I know everybody in this room knows that or you wouldn't be here. But we're going to fight it out. It falls to us to see to it that America remains the beacon of hope and freedom in this world. And we're going to do it. Exactly what you guys said. Exactly what you're doing.
What can Congress do to prevent illegals from voting in our elections?
You're going to be the man in Congress. Tell us what Congress is going to do to make that happen.
So, there's a couple things that are happening right now as we speak. In Congress, hold on, we're gonna come to that. In Congress, there is a bill that is up for consideration that will be tied to federal spending. The bill is called the SAVE Act. It would require that proof of citizenship has to be determined before you are registered to vote in the United States. The Democrats hate this. You said it earlier, it gives you a clue. Because instead of Democrats saying, yes, we should make sure that happens, they say, oh, that's a gimmick. It's already illegal. Except for the fact that the state of Virginia just removed about 8,000 illegal immigrants from their voter rolls. That the state of Texas just removed about 7,000 illegal immigrants from their voter rolls. I shudder to think what's going on in California and Illinois and New York. So it's going to require Congress to stand firm and say, listen, if you want to spend the money of the American citizen, the least you can do is protect the franchise of the American citizen. I typically don't do this, but I got to do it now. I have some colleagues who I love, some of them who are close to me, who are looking at this situation of a continuing resolution with the SAVE Act, and they're saying, well, the Senate will never take it, so why would we vote for this? And I say to them, you have to put the Democrats on the line to answer the question as to why illegal aliens should be allowed to be registered to vote in our country. We should do everything within our power to prevent that. That's not xenophobia. That's not racism. That is protecting the vote of the American people. That's protecting the vote of American women who had to go through suffrage. That's protecting the vote of black voters in this country who had to leave slavery and go through Jim Crow and actually fight for civil rights in order to have their votes protected in the United States. And for the Democrat Party to say that they don't want to do everything within their power to protect the vote of an American citizen is unconscionable to me. And we should hold them accountable in the middle of the most consequential presidential election in the history of our country. So there is something Congress can do. But like so many things on Capitol Hill, it takes courage, it takes faith, but it takes the backing of the American people. That's what we can do.
I just want to add on this one real quick, the history behind this, because you would think in the United States of America, only American citizens can vote in American elections. The law has been like that for years. But along the way, there was a federal court case that came in and basically interpreted it and distorted it and said, we're going to leave it up to the states to figure out how to implement it. Now, I'll give you an example from my home state, Nevada, where we don't even have voter ID. You just walk in and check the box that says you're an American citizen.
Yes.
So what these brave men have done has created a way to affirm the United States Constitution and close that loophole that some clown in the judiciary created and left up to the states to fix, but knew the states would balk because they want to capture votes any way they can. And that's why when you go to your communities and they're like, well, only American citizens can vote in American elections. No, we know they don't. And the only way to fix that is to close it permanently and mandate a proof of citizenship. And there is only one candidate that I've heard in this election cycle for president say that I only want American citizens to vote in American elections, and that's Donald Trump. And that's why you have to go to the community and explain to them the importance of the SAVE Act.
This has been a fun. Have you guys had fun tonight? you're going to get out and make sure you do everything you can for Donald J. Trump to become the 47th president. I see that young lady over here with her little cowgirl hat that has 47 on it, so I know she's ready. I see you over there. What will having Trump back in the White House mean for our Republican agenda in Congress?
I think you need to lead off on this.
Man, you can't just be leaving me to answer all the Congress questions. I was on the soapbox in the last one. I'm going to be more deliberate in this one. It takes leadership in the White House to move Congress.
Yeah.
All the policy ideas that everybody talks about, they've been written. The ideas have been written on Capitol Hill for decades. It's not about ideas, it is about will, and it is about leadership. This man has will and leadership.
Yeah.
If you want Republicans to stand strong and fight for America First principles, conservative principles, common sense ideas, and get them passed into law, you need him. I made a statement, I was in a fundraiser maybe 3 years ago. And this is back when we had members of our party who weren't quite sure where they stood before the primaries were going to get kicked up. And I said to them, they asked me where I stood. And I said, well, look, if Donald Trump is in, I'm in. I'm in with him. And they go, well, why? And I said, because it's not about speeches. It's not about your polling. It's not about how your suits look. It is about the will to stand in the fire against the press and the radical left and get it done. And I'm going to add one thing else here. And when Kash brought up about the deep state, what the Democrats have been successful at doing really for the last 90 years in our country, 90 years, is that they have been moving very steadily to institutionalize their agenda. It's not good enough just to pass it in a bill. The reason why the Democrats were so furious when Donald Trump came down that golden escalator and when he beat Hillary Clinton, you know, the reason why they were really mad is because the Democrats truly believed that leaving the Obama administration into a Clinton administration would give them 16 consecutive years of power to institutionalize their radical agenda. That it would become so ingrained in America that you would never have an opportunity to reverse course. That's why they're truly mad at Donald Trump. He says it better than anybody else. They're not mad at him. They're mad at you. He's just standing in the way. So when I tell you, you need him in order to accomplish a common sense America First agenda, is because he has the strength, he has the vision, and he has the will to see it through. And listen, we've seen candidates come and go. They sound good during campaign season. Some of them don't. But Donald Trump is the Republican of this era who has the will to get the job done. The last Republican leader who had the will to get the job done was Ronald Reagan.
I want to add something, if I can, about Congress. Byron and I are both members of the Freedom Caucus. We present a certain point of view. We were both among the 20 who contested the election of leadership at the beginning of 2023 for the purpose of trying to reorient the Republican majority in the House of Representatives to make progress on things. That hadn't worked out perfectly, let's be honest. However, you guys understand that just as there's a deep state that Kash spoke to, there are some in Congress who don't really want to make the change that Donald Trump represents. Where we are, and Byron got at it, is we're at this election that is the most essential to win in since Reagan. And it also presents the greatest opportunity to win since Reagan. Because it is Donald Trump who is the change agent, who will empower the change agents, who I can assure you are in the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate. They are there.
What are we going to do if
There's a young lady on the front row here whose husband is one of those change agents in the United States Senate. I'll get around and the 10 left, really, seriously. They're ready to make change. All they need is a set of circumstances under which change can occur. And Donald Trump is the key to that. And this man here will be a key to it as well.